Where are you from?
I am from Montgomery County, Maryland, right outside of DC.
Okay, and what was it like growing up in Montgomery County?
Man, I think it's one of the most unique experiences that there is in America because we are the most diverse place in terms of different languages, different religions, different cultures, because when someone immigrates to the US, more than likely they're gonna stop in DC. So it's a lot of immigrant families from all over the place, different backgrounds, different cultures. It's amazing. I love it.
Okay. And so, is your family from DC, or did they move to DC?
No, I'm the first American in my family.
Okay.
My family's originally from Uganda. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dad is from Kampala and my mom is from Jinja.
Okay. Shout out motherland.
Yes.
Okay.
Excited.
And so, where? So your father's from Kampala, your mother's from Jinja. Mm-hmm. Are they creative people?
My dad, not so much. I mean, he's a doctor.
Okay.
So I think he probably has a level of creativity in his field, but the creativity is definitely on my mama's side.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandmother on my mom's side, she was a fashion designer, specifically like she specialized in wedding dresses. Mm-hmm. And she had started a fashion line called Bermach that she did in London. And then my uncle, two of them are gospel singers. One of them is like really popular out there in East Africa. Shout out to Humke. And then my other uncle is like a DJ, always had a production company, kind of similar to what you have going on. Mm-hmm. He was doing that in Uganda and in the UK for a long time. So yeah, the creatives in the family are definitely on my mama's side. All
right. Were you a creative child?
Yes, very much so. For a lot of different reasons. I'm a Gemini, so I was always all over the place. I kind of had this long list. I want to be a chef. I want to be a dancer. I want to be a singer. I want to be this. I want to be that. And then my mom, she was a serial entrepreneur. She had many different businesses constantly because she never had her papers in this country. So she had to be very creative in how she was going to support me and my brother. So just working for her, working under her, and learning from her was definitely pivotal in my foundational years.
Oh, wow. And what business did she have that you worked in the most?
She had something she called Kid Taxi. It was basically Lyft and Uber before that existed.
Hey.
It was for children, basically because she was working as a nanny for a long time, and there are like older kids that had to go to like band practice or football practice or something like that. So her idea was like, okay, I'll pick up and drop off your kid because your kid is too old for a nanny, but they still need to get back and forth and you want to trust the driver. So that was one of her business models. She was doing interior design. She did event decor for a long time. And then the last business that she had, it was her own boutique. So she was basically getting our traditional fabric from home, Chikoi. It's 100% cotton and we dye it in all these beautiful colors.
Okay.
So I would go home, get the fabric, come home, and she would design these things like shirts, pants, dresses, hats, shoes, like all types of things, and she would make it one of one.
Wow.
She's not using patterns, she's not using anything. She's just taking the fabric, cutting it out into something and making it. I still have a lot of that inventory, so look out for that coming soon. But yeah, that last one was one of the big ones where I was like able to really get my hands in there. I was able to direct the shoots, any type of runway shows that we were having. I was like recruiting models and getting them prepared for our shows. Building the websites, obviously like going and buying the stuff. It was a lot.
Wow. Okay, and so what was your first creative pursuit?
My first creative pursuit, I mean, I started dancing, like ballet, tap, and jazz when I was 5.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, so I was definitely a little girl in ballet class. I think that was my first thing.
And how did that inform like your creative process now?
Wow. I think the main thing, especially with ballet, Ballet is really disciplined. You kind of, it's very mundane things. Like you're not thinking too, like when you look at it, you don't think it's that serious.
Right.
But when you're actually learning and being taught ballet, you learn your hands must be this way, your feet must be this way. Every little thing matters in the whole scheme of what this thing looks like. So I think that attention to detail and that discipline carries through everything.
You mentioned earlier that you modeled a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to modeling school when I was 12.
Oh, 12?
Yes.
Oh, they had you outside.
Yep. Okay. I was going through my tomboy era, and my mom was a little scared. So she was like, you know, let's try something fun. Let's get you into something. So the modeling thing, and I had always grown up watching like America's Next Top Model and things like that. So it was organic.
Okay, so you learned the walk. Did you learn etiquette, that sort of thing?
Yes, you learn walking, talking, interviewing, makeup, how to, you know, keep your hands, like your nails and your toes done, just always being presentable.
Yeah.
But then also, I think what I took away from it a lot was like the confidence that they're giving you.
Yeah.
Trying to build up this confidence of like, you have to walk in front of the class, or if we have the monologue, you have to do the monologue in front of the class. And they really, I went to Barbizon, and so they really do a lot of work in terms of like, even if you're not gonna go into acting or modeling, you're gonna walk away with a lot more sense of self and a lot more confidence. And I ended up teaching at the school a few years later, and I feel like that's what a lot of my students were getting as well.
Oh, wow. So you were modeling basically in your middle school years.
Yeah.
In your high school years, were you in any creative activities?
High school was when I walked my first runway show. That was for Salome Katongole, and that's a Ugandan designer. And then I was on the dance team.
Okay.
And then we started our own step team.
Okay, all right. And so after high school, did you pursue a creative career immediately, or did you like go to college? Like,
yeah, I went to college. I wanted to. I had my own plans, but everybody was like, nah, you gotta go to school. Especially like my family came here. That's a huge motivation of like, okay, the education system in this country.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge thing. That's why we came here, for you to go to school. So I did go to school. I ended up going to Morgan State first for business admin, and then I ended up at the University of Texas at Arlington for business management and marketing. And then I went to Full Sail for music business, and then I transferred into entertainment business.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't graduate anywhere though.
Okay, so why did you go to so many different?
So Morgan State was an HBCU. That was my go-to, that was my dream. We're gonna go to this HBCU. And then I ended up having to leave just because of safety issues. And then I was in Florida for a while because my mom had already moved to Florida. And I just felt like, okay, like y'all are pressing me, let me try to go to school again.
Yeah.
And then Texas was a lot. And I really had like a lot of mental health issues when I was in Texas.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in Florida. That's where Full Sail is. And so I was like, let me just try one more time, but let me try to do it in like a creative business thing.
Okay.
And then they started asking for loans, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't want none of that student debt.
Nah. Student debt's a no-go.
Yeah.
Wait, how do you feel about like the current education system?
I think the education system is very flawed, just because we're not really focused on educating people more so than we are on trying to school them, like trying to get you to feel comfortable in this setting, in a desk, in a thing. Like we want to kind of
create robots.
Yeah, exactly that. We're trying to create robots. We want you to sit there and do a thing, and it's not really about expanding your mind and learning as much as you can.
At what point did you start creative directing?
I think with my mom's business was like the first time I was really taking the creative direction seriously, just because I was so excited about her business, and I knew that if we were gonna elevate ourselves, then our images had to be pristine. So whatever we were putting out, any photo shoot I did, I was really trying. I worked with one photographer for a very long time, Ramon Hewley.
Okay.
And I just had these visions in my head, and with the creative direction, especially when it comes to photo shoots and modeling and things like that, again, it's that attention to detail where it's like, it's not just about you being pretty in the clothes or looking nice. I need you to showcase these things. And I want this bracelet to show this way, or I want this bag to show this way. Yeah.
So are you primarily working in the fashion industry?
Not really. Right now, I think majority of my clients, it's more events than anything else. And that's the thing, events is so vague and broad. So I've been working with my business partner who's a chef and curating events with them. I just left at a release party working with, music artists. So events is kind of like my bread and butter right now.
What do you prefer?
I don't think I have a preference. I think for me, what excites me is seeing something happen. Like taking an idea from somebody's head and then creating it into the tangible reality that we're in. I love seeing that. So regardless of how that happens, I want to see it.
Do you feel like your African origins influence your creative process?
Yeah, I think so. I think more than anything, like specifically like my dad's tribe, they are the Baganda tribe, and one of their biggest values is hospitality. And so I think just being open in creative spaces and willing to learn constantly, just knowing that even if you're not somebody that's gonna pay me or you're not part of this big name, whatever, I can learn something from you. And so that's something I definitely attribute to my upbringing.
Did you face any challenges on the road to becoming a creative director?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest challenges obviously is being not a man. Being a woman in entertainment is really hard because people just don't want to take you seriously for some reason. And it can, when you're with the boys, it's like your value, maybe you're sleeping with somebody or you're going to be the pretty girl in the room, but your opinion doesn't really matter. I think that was like one of the biggest things, was just kind of like etching out space for myself and kind of like standing my ground, even when it felt like no one was willing to support me, or even people are like against the progress.
How do you feel about like sort of like women's rights in the creative industry? Do you feel like they're sort of like upheld? Do you feel like you're working in like positive and safe spaces?
I do. I definitely feel like I'm starting to work in very positive and safe spaces, especially now that I moved to Atlanta. And that's only because I'm working with other women who are hell-bent on lifting up other women. I think that women's rights in entertainment is very fickle, just because it's not sexy, it's not sellable, marketable, like nobody really cares to sell that. And at the end of the day, as much as you're always like gonna find a girl who's like trying to pine out and trying to like find a way for herself and really standing in her own, there's gonna be another girl who doesn't care. And it's just like, I don't care how I'm treated, all these girls are just being sensitive and whatever. So then it like makes it a tit for tat. But slowly but surely, I think we're getting more progress because there's so many more women making decisions. And they genuinely want to see other women win.
So you mentioned like moving to Atlanta. Did you move to Atlanta for entertainment?
Yeah, I moved to Atlanta to work for the most part. I was living in Orlando for 5 years, and basically what had happened was my mom ended up passing away, and it was just kind of like, okay, so what do we do now? And my brother had his own plans, his own ideas and things like that of what he wanted to do. And I just didn't want to move back to Maryland because there's not a lot of opportunity in Maryland as much as it is fun to live there.
Right.
And so I'm just kind of sitting here waiting it out. My god sister is like, oh, we're gonna move to Atlanta. Would you move to Atlanta? I was like, yeah. If you're gonna go, then I'll go. Like, let's go. And I was doing some research. And there's just so much opportunity here. This is hustle city. No matter what industry you're in, you can make money in Atlanta.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I love Atlanta.
Yes.
But it's also like clout city too.
Yes, so absolutely. Slime city too.
So you never really know if people like want to be your friend or, but I still love it though, for sure.
Definitely. And it's a learning experience too, because I think it gives you that level of discernment where it's like, okay, I might have connected with this person, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're my friend.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is just somebody that I hug and see at events and I don't connect with them in any other way. Like we don't actually have any type of relationship. So that's what it's taught me, because I definitely was a person that was like, oh, everyone's my friend. We're all besties. Learned very quickly that that's not the thing. That's not the case.
Yeah, same. So what's been the most challenging aspect of your creative career?
Defining myself. I think defining myself and defining what I'm actually trying to do has always been the hardest thing. Especially because society will tell you, just pick one thing. Just pick a thing and just master that one thing and you'll be good. And my personality has just never been that. It's always gonna be like, okay, how do I tie all of these different things that I like and know into each other?
Right.
So really coming to that definition of myself and then being comfortable with that. When somebody's really pressing you on down to the wire and you gotta stand 10 toes.
Facts.
Yeah.
How do you remain optimistic while trying to define yourself?
Looking at the kids. I really like kids. I worked as a nanny for a long time. And I think when you really appreciate children and you just kind of see them living their lives, it really gives me motivation and inspiration, because it's like, okay, regardless of what everyone's doing around me, life is going to continue even past my life, and there are people that we have to take care of. And so kids keep me optimistic for sure.
What's been the most memorable moment in your career so far?
The most memorable moment? That's a really good question.
It could be anything.
I think, and it's crazy to say, I think one of my most memorable moments was a TV show that I was on in Orlando that never came out. Because I did so much work for them and I was so excited, and I had like been plugging them all over, and what it was like I was able to see what I was capable of regardless of what the production or the director or whoever the higher ups are. I'm really carrying all of this on my own. I'm making these deals happen on my own. Like, people are liking me, and then Nike's with us the next day, or we have tickets to go see Ashanti and such and such and so and so. Like, I was getting our team into so many doors, and it really shifted my perspective, because even though the show never came out or anything like that, it was like, it's not that I joined a winning team. The team won because I was on it.
What is your ultimate aspiration for your creative career?
My ultimate, I think I want to connect Black communities worldwide. I want to create pipelines between Black communities worldwide, because there are Black people all over the world, and entertainment has such a impactful nature, and it's so sacred. And I think because I'm not moved by money very much, I genuinely love the craft of creativity, and so creating those pipelines through entertainment between Black communities, that's my goal.
What influenced your desire to help Black communities?
Well, being Black.
Outside of the lady.
Definitely just being the first American in my family, and just like that, it's a very unique experience being a first generation person. And not only like being that I was born here in America, but like I have such a genuine appreciation for African Americans. It's like on a different level, and then I go back home and then I have like appreciation on different levels, and you go to different African countries and it's like, wow. And then I have cousins that were born and raised in Japan and their experience and how their come up was, and it's like the only issue that we have, I think, especially when it comes to like diaspora, what makes us like anti each other sometimes is like that grass is greener on the other side mentality. And because we don't have the connection to each other where we can just, oh yeah, I can just go to Africa tomorrow, or I can just go and actually be with the locals in Jamaica tomorrow. Like, it's not easy. It's very easy to go to white places. It's very easy to go to wherever, like the resort, and just be with other Americans the whole time. But it's not very easy for Black people to travel elsewhere and be with each other. And so I think that if we bridge that gap, we'll have so much more community and understanding about each other, appreciation of ourselves and the next person too.
Do you feel that you sort of live with like a double consciousness? In a sense that you're like a Black American, but you're also African. Yeah,
it's almost like it actually gave me, when I went to my HBCU, it gave me a different appreciation for like biracial people. That whole idea of like, you know, I'm not like Black American enough to just like blend in, but then I'm also not African enough to just blend in. It's like a very unique experience of both. And I feel like I just can't be ashamed of that. Like that's a beautiful thing. That's an amazing power that I have. And I feel like it's almost like a bridge. You know what I mean? Because I can't like meld, but I can fit in enough where it's like, okay, I can take you to Africa tomorrow. Or yeah, I can take you to the hood and we're gonna be straight. Like, okay.
For someone watching this who aspires to essentially do what you do, what advice would you have for them?
Read. I would definitely tell them to read as much as possible, and not just like physical books, because reading a physical book can be kind of daunting, but audio books, listening to and watching video essays and taking notes and reading your notes back, things like that. Just the practice of reading and studying, just because nothing that we're doing is new. It's all been done before. All the ideas that we're coming up with have been thought of before. So what we need to do is learn from the past so that we can innovate from their mistakes or shortcomings or whatever the case was, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes.